This is Enjoy It While It Lasts, and I'm your host, HermanFouse. Today's deep dive, the weights and joys of the Christmas season. Christmas, of course, is always thought about as a joyful holiday season because, for the most part, it is that, right? There's cheer, giving, family, and joy. It's a time to be with loved ones and care for our neighbors. And let's not act like that's all there is, though. It's also a time that is full of pressure, demands on time, and financial drain. I'm going to take a look at the Christmas season and try to break down the parts that feel heavy and the parts that uplift. From the wonder to the rough. I'm going to be talking about Christmas the way that I talk about other things, by looking at all parts of it. And I'm trying to fully see the good and the bad, the beauty and the ugly. I'm not going to be critical just for the sake of being a cynic, but I'm also not going to pretend that everything is perfect with the most wonderful time of the year. All right, I'm sorry, but I got to start with the one thing that I hate. I'm starting with something that I hate because it's always the first thing that takes place every year to start the season. Or I should say, before the season. I hate walking into stores in October and seeing Christmas displays. It's something that probably bothers me more than it should. It reeks of the worst part of the holiday, and that's corporations trying to drain every cent out of you that they possibly can. I'm usually on the way in to try to find some last minute deals on Halloween stuff, see whatever I can get when it hits me every year. But then I do always go and check out what they got. I can't help myself. I can't help it. I love decorations too much. That's probably one of my favorite things about December, seeing everyone's decorations. I've always loved going and seeing Christmas lights on people's houses and seeing everyone's decorations as a kid, and I still do it now. I love putting the lights up and decorating inside my own house. Suddenly, I'm an interior designer and want to make sure that everything flows and just makes sense. But I am a tacky interior designer because if I had my way, I would just overload on string lights everywhere. When I was a kid, I would sometimes just zone out and stare at our Christmas tree for hours. I'd look at it section by section and memorize every single light and ornament placement, probably. I would sit underneath, lay underneath, I guess, and look up through the branches and the lights and just kind of spend my time like that every now and then. Um, Nowadays, I've even tried to convince my wife that multicolored string lights are a preferred indoor lighting setup to lamps. The other part of me, though, hates actually putting them up. Dangling, standing on a chair, stretching between nails. It never even takes long, but I still don't like getting started. Maybe that's just the ADHD in me. As much as I love my many strings of light, and as much as I love looking at other people's houses too, I tend to care a lot less about the outside of my house. I think I'm selfish, guys. We do have a lighted cactus and an inflatable Yoda or Grogu. I've said both actually, and recently when I looked at it, I can't tell which it's supposed to be, but we got an inflatable one of them. We do have a snowman and a lighted small tree, And all of those things have to be staked into the ground, though. Not only that, they tend to have to be restaked several times because it gets pretty damn windy in December. And there's a lot of mornings where I find them on the ground. This may also just be me. Maybe my 5 stakes that all go 2 feet into the ground per decoration just isn't enough. I haven't gotten on our roof since I was a very young man. So we string some lights on our porch, but not the whole house anymore. We are also always the last house on the block to put up our decorations, by the way, on the outside at least. Inside, my wife will randomly decide to bring the boxes in one day. She opens them up and lets my kids go nuts with putting things up. This year, they actually also assembled our Christmas tree on their own entirely. I am just told when it's time for me to put up the lights, so it's no longer of me a matter of me fighting through the work to get the lighting I want. It's being pressured by the other 4 people in my house to decorate with them. And in the decorations, my job is the lights. The outside, though, that part is all me. And because of that, we are lucky if they are up by the first week of December. Bonus, though, it's usually up longer than the inside. So I make up for it on the back end. Decorations is the signal, but it's not the real start, I don't think at least. I think it starts feeling like Christmas season when society begins to shift how they behave in public. Basically, when stores start playing holiday music and when commercials start having snow in them. You know, when you start really feeling the pressure and everyone starts wanting some money. Oh, by the way, guys, in the description of this episode will be my Cash App. If anyone that likes my show wants to send me a little encouragement to keep it going, just, FYI. For real though, gifts is the reason for the season. I am not a Christian, but I do celebrate Christmas. I celebrate it for the same reason that I celebrate every holiday that I do, really. Not for religious purposes, but to have family traditions and fun. If I'm being honest though, if I didn't celebrate for any other reason, I would still do it for an excuse to have a day to give our kids a ton of stuff that they don't need, but that will make them happy for 72 minutes. I'll take out 14 credit cards to pay for their excitement, to pay for that annual buildup of anticipation, their smiles. The problem is all of you other folk. I love a lot of people, but it's kind of forced into us that if we don't get a Christmas gift for someone, then that means fuck them. I've grown past that part of it though. The exterior pressure to buy everyone a gift doesn't bother me anymore. What gets me now is the interior pressure. I want to give things to everyone that I care about. I like showing off how thoughtful that I think I am and then seeing a person get happy because of something that I gave them. I can tell when it's fake and that's cool. We can't shoot 100%, but when you know that someone you care about and love a lot actually is genuinely happy because of something that you gave them, that's one of the best feelings in the world. Whether the pressure is exterior or interior, the effect is generally the same. We put ourselves in a bad financial position because we want to buy way more stuff for other people than we would ever justify in our budgets to buy for ourselves. We hurt ourselves to prove our love to people that are usually also hurting themselves to prove they love us back. I mean, it's sweet, but it can get unnecessary real quick. As an adult, when I have to make a wish list of things that I want, it's usually hard for me. I tend to buy what I need or want most of the time, and I don't feel right asking for things that I wouldn't buy for myself. My wife and I went several years following this principle and not buying each other gifts as we worked together to buy everyone else on our list. We've found a middle ground lately and start on what type of gifts we can still give each other to still bring out those the joys of giving to each other, but without adding too much pressure on ourselves. Because again, if we needed something, we would just buy it. While we are all worried about spending our money, at that same time, we might also be trying to, get extra work to be able to spend it. A problem that can come up that prevents that sometimes, though, is how big of a demand on our time there is this time of year. Every grade of every elementary school is putting out some sort of play, concert, or show. And I got three kids. Plus, there is going to be at least one additional school event, some holiday breakfast, donuts with dads, daddy daughter dance. There's going to be something happening. And then, of course, there's different work events or church events. And we haven't even brought up family yet. In a 3 week stretch, suddenly you're constantly attending events where you only kind of know some of the people and really only like or care about a couple of them. Events have a whole another level to them when you are the one hosting. I feel bad for my cousins that host Christmas every year. We all go over on Christmas Eve, and I mean all. Like 10 to 15 couples worth of family, and all different generations represented. Several singles mixed in as well in all different generations. And all of us with a handful of kids. Ages from just popped out till a few years from dropping are all together every year on Christmas Eve in one house. You have to have a certain amount of setup, I guess, to accommodate that many people of that variety of people as well. At least several people do chip in to make the tamales because if one person had to make that many, it would probably take days. What I feel worse about though is the cleanup they must have to go through afterwards. Not bad enough to stick around and help clean up though. My hosting is not as extreme as theirs, but since our kids came around, our house was the spot for Christmas Day. So that way we wouldn't have to take them from grandparent to grandparent. They could just come to us. The best part of it really was that being able to stay in one place. On our level of hosting, that by itself made up for any possible downside. I can just stay in whatever matching outfit our family got for the year. Last year it was Demon Slayer shirts, by the way, and not have to put on a jacket other than in the morning when I go get donuts. Whenever I have made a Christmas dinner, because some years that's something that we just skip the work of, we're tired. But on the years when we have done one, I like to try to do something that I wouldn't normally do. Like the one year I made some braised short ribs with cornbread and fried okra and corn on the cob, some mashed potatoes, and I don't know what else. I made something else that year. But it was the best meal that I'd ever cooked in my life. At least to me it was. It also was the worst cleanup that I've ever had after a meal. And that is even before I take into account that I spilled some of the sauce into the oven. Luckily for me, I didn't even have to clean that part up. My wife took the hit, took one for the team, and scrubbed the that off once it cooled. I've already mentioned a lot of my family traditions so far, but honestly, we have a lot more that I haven't even talked about yet. We seem to have more rituals than some religious families, despite being a non religious household. Leading up to Christmas Day, we have several markers that we, I guess, seemingly have to hit for it to be Christmas. Movies are one. This year, there's always several movies that are going to be watched every year. This year at our house, Home Alone was the one that started it off. Nightmare Before Christmas is going to come soon, I'm sure. And I know Elf is going to be played 1,000 times. On Christmas Day, as my kids are playing with their newest bounty, I always turn on the Mickey Mouse version of A Christmas Carol. And I pretend that they are paying close attention and watching it with me because it's always been my favorite Christmas special. Another thing is something I mentioned that I do on my own, but there's also will be at least a few nights where we all get into the car and put on Christmas music and we go look around at lights. We'll drive around our neighborhood and the surrounding ones, or sometimes we'll go through the paid drive-throughs or just hit up the big neighborhoods that are free but do have very long lines. Most of the time, though, we are just driving up and down the streets that are near us, and we get to see our fill every time. Last year, we introduced the Elf on the Shelf. We call ours Sparkles because my kids are very original. It's sometimes fun, sometimes a pain to figure out the different ways to set it up, but it's always instantly worth it when they set out in the mornings to see where the elf is this time. I am still both angry for Brenda for bringing this into our lives, but very glad that she did it. The day itself on Christmas, we have a ritualistic rhythm in our house. I mentioned how we usually have a late night on Christmas Eve with the many households combined already. So at least our kids are usually tired and they fall asleep pretty easily on Christmas Eve when because usually once they do go to sleep, I have a lot of assembling to do. We like to let our kids have the moment where they walk out of their rooms and just get to see stuff. So to do that, we got to lay stuff out and set up what needs setting up. That also means we have to set our alarms and we have a pre-negotiated time with our kids to get up. Usually we decide, depending on how tired we are the night before and how much pushback. Sometimes the kids will actually agree to setting it a little bit later, depending on if they are also too tired. But that's a year-to-year thing. Once we do get up with our alarms, we all meet up in the kids' restroom first to make sure that they, of course, do brush their teeth, wash their face. We all make sure we take care of our morning routine and get dressed in our now matching outfits, as I talked about. We'll take a couple pictures in one of my kids' rooms that's connected to the restroom, and then either my wife or I will play videographer and walk out ahead to capture the moments when they walk out. After they explore their stuff for a while, they'll open their remaining gifts from my wife and I. We've started giving them allowances this year, by the way, and also letting them earn money through different extra chores. So we're hoping that this year, at least one of our three kids will decide to use some of their own money to buy a gift or two. Um, I don't know. I doubt it. I'm at least hoping though. At some point, we'll have to make a choice of when we think we want to start kind of forcing them to buy maybe each other a gift at least. I don't know. Anyway, after our household family gifts, we usually all sit down and have a cup of hot chocolate, and then I'll go out with any kid that wants to go with me this time to get some donuts. And at some point here, my wife's parents will have arrived. And so then the kids, and us too, get to have a whole new round of gifts. Then it's almost like the first break of the day, unless it's a year where I'm cooking, in which case I would be having to get to it. And I say break, but it's also the first round of cleanup of the day. Depending on the year, the timing might change year to year, but at some point, my mom and brothers will show up. And then the kids get their fourth gift opening opportunity within 24 hours. Basketball is usually on one screen or another for me around the gift opening times, not during, but at all other times, basically. And this year, I think I'll still try to have it on, but I don't know if I'm going to really be into it or not. I've talked about my loss of interest in basketball recently, but I just felt like I had to mention it here because generally speaking, it had been a big part of Christmas for me. We can generally coast through the afternoon with the kids entertaining themselves and who knows, any of us sneaking a nap in until at some point is back to only being the five of us in the house again. The only real tradition we have in Christmas evening is that my wife is guaranteed to declare to the house that Christmas is over. My kids love mocking that too. Christmas is over. And sometimes she even has the energy to start taking down a few decorations right then and there. Another part of Christmas that I think can feel overwhelming at times, but can be just as equally rewarding is the need to reach out to people. Whether you are a household that does Christmas cards or simply sends out a text, it can be difficult to make sure you remember everyone that matters to you, especially when you've got all the demands on your time and mental energy that we've already been talking about. I'm the type of person that also doesn't want to just send a generic message if I am going to reach out. I want to actually say something that relates to the person I'm talking to. This can sometimes be difficult, for me at least, when I'm feeling drained. I'm usually rewarded though, because people do tend to match the energy you put into them. And by me trying to connect with people personally, there's going to be at least some that match that energy. But also, the reward isn't the only reason that it can be important to reach out to people. The season doesn't only bring pressure and joy. For some, it brings depression. Even for myself, I regularly get more depressed this time of year. And I've just talked about all the things that make my life rich this time of year. There are so many people who have lost what makes their life rich this time of year, or others that maybe never felt that way to begin with. Sometimes a person doesn't even realize or know how to say it, but they need a little bit more this time of year. More love, more attention, more communication. For all the reasons I've talked about for myself, and I'm sure more for others that I haven't mentioned, the Christmas season makes us feel a lot. It crashes over us and it can be relentless. We can feel like we are struggling to just make it through because we are exhausted, broke, and forcing cheer to try to make it all magical for our kids. When I am feeling that way, I always try to take a few breaths, look at my string of lights, and slow it all down for myself. I try to think about the magic that my mom made for me as a kid and what I'm doing now for mine. I appreciate the smiles from friends, the songs from the kids. I try to not spend too much over my gift budget so that it all stays worth it. I also really just always try to remind myself of all the sources of joy that I have around me and how all of those sources of joy also get amplified this time of year. Remember, you only got one life to live. You might as well enjoy it while it lasts.